The Barroom Network presents two fired-up Bears fans. They are ready to rumble on the Bear Debate.
Hey, this is David Kaplan from the Cap J Hood Show on ESPN 1000 and NBC Sports Chicago. Now get ready to listen and watch to Bulls 101 with Kris and Larro. Take that, Sparkles.
How we doing, Bulls Nation? Welcome to another edition of Bulls 101. And as you know, it's me, Larro, and I'm here, as always, joined by my boy, Kris Amundsen. Kris, how are you doing, man? Tell me how you feeling.
I'm feeling fantastic. Man. This is it's been a good week for the Bulls. 3 very, very entertaining games. It's the Christmas season. Already got my Christmas party on just earlier tonight. So I missed the second half of this game, unfortunately. But I heard it was a great come from behind win, just a gritty, kind of dig deep win. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys, to you and everyone watching about it. And yeah, we're 16-8. Can't believe it, man. With the schedule we've had, with the injuries, the COVID, Patrick Williams being out for the season, I cannot believe where the Bulls are today. I mean, they're second in the East, and they just beat the best team in the East, despite a game where everything pointed to them they should have lost that game. If you look at all the stats, if you look at the second chance points, the offensive rebounds, the fact that the Nets took 25 more shots than the Bulls, we should have lost this game, and they pulled it out. So I'm feeling the vibes. I'm feeling it today. How about you, man? How you feeling?
I think you said something that I think we need to touch on just a little bit later, is with the Pat injury. And I think these games have been popping up every night, here and there, of like, okay, we need a replacement for his archetype. But again, we could talk about that a little bit later. But as for, man, the feeling, 3-0 on this, we had 2 away in New York, and then we had 1 at home against the Hornets. To go 3-0 after having a little rough patch That says a lot about the team. Says a lot about Billy. Says a lot about this organization that they can get over little collapses like that, little bumps in the road. They can get back up and get right back on the train and keep it going. And it like you said, it's been a great feeling. It's really been fun to see this team fight and claw unnecessarily. I mean, there's been games where the Bulls have been up 19, and you would think it should be a nice sailing going into a win, and it just turns into a battle when it didn't need to be. But anyway, I think we should kind of maybe touch from the first game, and then we'll get to tonight. But the Hornets game.
Yeah, we can start there. Hey, what's up, Marcus?
Oh yeah, what's
Marcus
up, Mr. Couch? What's up, man?
Nice game tonight. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. But how did you feel about that Hornets game? I believe it ended up being 119 and 133 as a total as the final score. After having a big lead, how did you feel about that game?
That one was interesting because I felt like from a fan perspective, it was a lot of fun to watch. The LaMelo versus Lonzo battle. Just the shot making was incredible. It was a really, really, really fun game. I liked it a lot. It definitely felt to me defense optional, and that worried me a little bit because our defense has fueled so much of our success this season, and so I didn't want them to get into a complacency where they're like, "Hey, man, we've got a lot of guys that can just put the ball in the bucket." And the Hornets do too, right? The Hornets, their offense has been really good this season. Their defense has been horrendous, and so they get into shootouts with a lot of teams. And so hey, we won the shootout and we won the game by 12 points. But the reason I think they were able to get back into it and stay with us as long as they did is because I didn't think our defense was quite up to par. Yeah. But it shows you the talent of this team offensively, and I think we've started to see this last week or so with Vooch kind of rounded into form here. This offense can be devastating. I mean, when Vooch is on, like he has been the last few games, and his stat line tonight wasn't as good as the two games before, but he's still such an important cog in the offensive machinery. And when he's there, it hums sometimes. And we saw it in preseason with that Pelicans game and the first game against the Cavs. The offense was devastating. It was devastating. But we hadn't seen it against quality opponents, but now we saw it against the Knicks, the Nets, and the Hornets, all of which are in the playoff race. At least the Knicks are now 11 and 12. So sorry, Knicks fans, now under 500. And I know they're going through it right now, but
yeah,
I can't. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But did you feel like it was defense optional, or is it just me?
I definitely felt that way. I felt like that game it's just, I feel like they were in control of that game for a very long time. And then I want to say, if I remember right, Zach and Vooch subbed out, and I felt like it kind of changed from there. And I think Billy waited just a little bit too long to get Zach and Vooch back in there, and then they ended up righting the ship. But no, I completely agree. That game as well, I think it changed when they went to zone. Hornets went to zone, and it started to be a little crazy. Shout out, I am Skokes. What's up, man? He says, "I'm not sorry for Knicks fans." I'm right there with you, man. Especially as much trash they were talking before the season.
I was gonna say they deserve more happiness than they've gotten, but they were talking some mad trash before the season.
Yeah, a lot of trash. A lot of trash.
Hey, if I had their season last season, I would have been talking trash too. So I can't say too much.
That's true. But yeah, no, I thought the zone kind of once they brought it out there, I think that kind of messed the Bulls up a little bit, the rhythm and things. But the thing they can't forget is like that game was like Vooch's like that was his like I'm still Vooch, guys. Right. Yep. I'm still Vooch. Like this is what I can't do. And I think you said it too. You said it showed like you were able to see how important Vooch is to this team, and it makes it makes complete sense to me that when Vooch is on, that this offense, like you said, looks devastating. Like, and when Zach and DeMar are doing their thing, it's still crazy.
We'll
But
get to them. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's still crazy. But when you add that Vooch to that, I mean, there's not much you could do. I mean, for instance, tonight, again, I know we're trying to hold off on the Nets, but for instance, tonight, I mean, Lonzo was getting great looks because you have to pick your poison. You know, are you going to double Zach? Are you going to double DeMar? What are you going to do with Vooch pops? Are you going to leave Vooch? You know, like, you got to pick your poison. And they chose to have Lonzo be the guy that they'll live with, and it ended up hurting them in the end. But that's the crazy thing about it. And we've talked about it even before the season, what this offense could be, and how deadly it could be. We both thought that this could be a top 5 offense. And it was funny because it's just all crazy because we didn't think the defense was going to be the strength of this team. But it's crazy, and I'm happy to be surprised by that. Because if the defense is there and the offense ends up starting to show what it's been showing, I mean, you're seeing what can happen. Second in the East, potentially could be first. So it's been great, man.
Yeah. So, which I'll give ourselves some credit. We thought the defense would be better than average.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be like 10 to 15 range. And as of this win, we are 7th in offense, 7th in defense, 4th in overall net rating. And I think this offense, I mean, look at what we've had to deal with this season with the injuries and the COVID, and Zach playing with one hand for the first month and a half. And it's just, Kobe's now out with COVID, Javante's out with COVID, Caruso's got this hamstring issue. And they keep finding ways to win, and that's the mark of a great team. That's what has me so encouraged. Now, the injuries suck, and I think our offensive rating would be a lot better if Vooch wasn't out for a month or for a couple weeks with COVID, and he had a really rough stretch. But as you said, like they keep finding ways to win, and the guys on this team are serious minded. They have the right attitude. They come in with the right mentality. And it's, I don't know, we can get into individual players and kind of the vibes from the season, but they've been better on defense than we thought. And their offense has been good enough to get them this great, 16-8 record. They're on, they're winning 2 games every one they lose. That's a great way to go about your basketball season and get a high seed.
Yeah.
But I think there's room for improvement. I think our defense can be better than it is now. I think our offense can be better than it is now. And I know we've talked about this before, but I think the trade deadline is going to be a key factor in kind of shoring up the rotation as we, get to thinking about the playoffs. But the guys that are coming off the bench that are filling in for the people that have been out, they're contributing. Troy Brown Jr. hasn't been in the rotation. He came in the last 2 games, gave him solid minutes. I mean, he missed a couple shots early on tonight, but he's given that effort. He's getting those rebounds. He had that really nice shovel pass to Vooch for that open 3. Ooh, yeah. That was a nice play in the first half. So I know I'm back on the Nets game, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
One of the cool things, coming to the season, the bench was like, you hope Kobe gets healthy and he can be that consistent, scorer off the bench. You knew what Caruso was going to be, but okay, you didn't know much about what Tony Bradley was going to be. You didn't know what, you had some aspirations for Alizé to be a little bit more impactful than he's been. And the fact, I think what's really been helping this bench is the fact that Ayo has really improved enough to where he can be in the rotation and be another in that guard rotation of point of attack defenders, and I think that's helped in the fact of where you don't have to necessarily depend on TBJ. Like now, like it's a luxury to bring TBJ off the bench as well as Ayo, and it's great to see that. I think last season, after the season, I should say, a lot of it was like, okay, their biggest thing was development. You know, a lot of guys didn't develop. You know, Pat didn't get better as much as they thought he would. Kobe did da 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 da. But I think you're seeing the best case for me is Ayo. I mean, coming into this team and really showing that he can be a rotation guy. He can. I mean, tonight he had a big couple blocks. You know, and stepping up, having a little bit more on his plate tonight against the Nets, and he really, you know, showed out. And it's just been great to see that, you know, especially Billy, that he empowers his players, man. Like, Ayo had some rookie mistakes early in the season, but like he's continued to stick with him, and I think it's been, you know, great for his confidence, and we're reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far he's been a really great pick, and he's been exactly what we've needed off the bench. And he's hitting those corner threes at a pretty decent clip. He's so quick. He moves the ball pretty well. He gets out in transition. He's been, you know, pretty good defensively. Now he's a rookie, so he's inconsistent in the execution sometimes, but the effort is there, and he's so impactful on the game whenever he's in. Now, sometimes that can be impact for bad, and sometimes it can be for good. I feel like the good has outweighed the bad so far. But you're right. I mean, for him to come in and be give you key minutes as a reserve on this type of team is really, really a credit to the front office and the coaching staff and Billy. I mean, Billy's just done as good a job as you can hope for at this point. I really have had very little complaints about the rotations that he's been putting out there. We talked about DeRozan and bench unit before the season, and in the preseason it was like a little shaky, and we're like, well, maybe it'll be better with Zach because of the shooting. No, that bench unit comes in and just bogs it down on defense, just slings mud on defense, and then they just cut and move, and then let DeRozan work in the mid post and in the mid range. And DeMar DeRozan, we'll get to DeMar DeRozan a little bit later tonight, but holy crap,
man.
But that bench unit's been really effective despite the lack of shooting, despite the lack of kind of dynamism in a playmaking sense. But Ayo has contributed to that because he does have a little bit of playmaking juice. He makes, you know, good decisions with the ball for the most part. You've got Troy Brown Jr. He's a good passer. He can get to the rim. Derek Jones, obviously, you can play, you know, as your five. So they've found little niches within their own strengths that have managed to mesh well with the rest of the team. So they have kind of organically found their roles, and Billy's put them in positions to maximize the skill sets that they do have to this team. So there's still weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously the rebounding was an issue. The lack of bench shooting has been an issue. The lack of a really big forward that can guard guys like Kevin Durant. So you don't have Caruso guarding or Javonte Green guarding Julius Randle. Like that's clearly not ideal, but the Bulls are still winning.
Yeah.
Even with those even with clear weaknesses like that, they're still cobbling together these wins against quality teams.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on. You're hitting it right on the, taking the hammer to the nail with a lot of these points that you're making, man. But I think we should probably move on to the Knicks game, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on that game as well.
Yeah, that was a tough game. Being in New York, obviously, it's tough to win in New York, and the Knicks clearly see a rivalry, and you know they were going to get up for that game. And they came off a really disappointing loss against the Nets, where they were really mad about the officiating. So you knew they were going to be in it. And then you got Alex Caruso just doing Alex Caruso things out there. Pissed off Taj Gibson enough to get him ejected, which I thought was there's no way he should have been ejected for that. I don't care what he said. I thought that ref was way out of line. Hey, it's okay, though. I'm not going to interrupt. I do not interrupt my enemies when they're making mistakes. I'm just going to say that. So it benefited the Bulls, obviously, to have Taj not there. And the Bulls, had a really impressive first half. They came out with the right energy, and they gave themselves that buffer. They got up to 21 points. I think it was like 19, 18 or so at half. Yeah. And the third quarter happened. And we've known with third quarters this season, it's been a little hit and miss. sometimes coaches make adjustments. They'll come out, they'll kind of botch us up for a few minutes, and we'll go on this little lack of scoring droughts. And had one again. I rewatched that third quarter, and I thought it wasn't anything egregious, but sometimes you can just feel that momentum shifting, and they hit a shot and you don't, and that happens twice in a row, or you go for a loose ball and you just barely miss it, and that leads to a fast break, and that that could be 6, 8, 10 points right there, and that's tough to come back from. It's tough to stop those runs, especially when you're on hostile ground. So I thought they did a good job of kind of stemming the bleeding in the third quarter. They because they got real close and they kind of eked out what it was like 6 or 7 point lead at the end of the third. And the fourth quarter, they got down and dirty, and they gave DeMar and Zach the ball in the clutch. And I thought that game shouldn't have been as close as it was, because Lonzo Ball had like 5 or 6 wide open corner threes in that game that he's been knocking down all year long, and he just missed them.
Yeah.
And he just missed them. And a lot of those times, games will come down to those things, and that might cost you the game, but they found a way to win anyway. I thought that game wasn't as close as the score indicated. I thought we outplayed the Knicks for the most part, except in that small spurt in the third quarter. But that was my thought on it. I've been talking for like 10 minutes now, so I'm going to let you tell me about the Knicks here, because I need some water.
Yeah, no, man. So for the Knicks game, I just really like. It's always great to see the team that you root for come out and absolutely just put a smack down on the opponent. But I feel like it's happened a lot over the season where the team gets up and then it kind of lacks a little bit, allow a team to get back in, and then now they created a stressful situation for Billy and for themselves to like, okay, there's no way we can lose this game. It's gonna be a bad look, and then on top of that, obviously we have come to find out we already knew Zach was a bucket, and we already knew that DeMar in his past, in his career, he's been a guy that could score the ball. But I feel like DeMar has been absolutely unreal. And I think they rely on it just a bit too much sometimes, right? They get into they make themselves get in these situations. And then they're like, okay, well, DeMar, Zach, take us home, and it's like, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have that. But you would just like to see them, just keep a team down, keep your foot on their necks, and get out of there with a win, and not be so stressful. But that's what the Knicks game was to me. Again, I thought you saw like a little bit of the weakness with the Bulls when you got Julius Randle is being guarded by, and this is no shade towards Caruso and Lonzo at all. I mean, they are the engine to this defense, and they get this team going. But you're looking for, that's where you're missing Pat. That's where you're missing, like you've brought up, like that big wing kind of 4-ish deal, because I mean, you need some size, and there were times in that against with Julius that he was just getting whatever he wanted, because I mean, he's a big dude, man. He puts that shoulder down. It's not a lot of guys that can stop that freight train when he's on. And I think, again, like we're seeing it, and by all means, nobody can guard Kevin Durant. Like you can't do anything about that at all. So like I'm not expecting, like, even if Pat was here, like I wasn't was healthy, I wouldn't expect him to like absolutely put the clamps on KD. But you would like to see a bigger body on KD to make him, because he got to his spots really easy. That's one thing you can do with Kevin Durant. Like with PJ Tucker, that was his biggest thing. Was like, KD's gonna get his buckets. But make his catches tougher. Right? Make him have to, as soon as he turns around, I'm right here. Right? A lot of times tonight where he catch the ball, there was somebody there, and DJJ's still trying to fight over a screen or something like that, and he's got an open look. And I just feel like just bigger bodies, man. Just bigger bodies for these bigger wings. Like, That's what the team is missing. And I mean, it's funny. I gotta be honest, man. It is great to have this problem. Like at first, right? And this sounds weird, but I'll explain. Like coming into the season, like you're like, man, first round, no play-in, but like anything outside of that, like perfect. But like I feel like you watch this team play, you watch what type of what kind of makeup this team has. Now, okay, your sights are a little bit higher. Now you're saying, okay, well, we better be able to get out of the first round. I mean, like we're that good of a team. Okay, now what do we need to add now to make ourselves even better of a team? And I think that's now how I'm looking at the games going forward. It's like, okay, what are we missing? And that's the recurring thing is that big wing, that you can throw on Julius, that you can throw on KD at times, just to give them different looks. I'm just honestly, man, I'm just happy, man. As a Bulls fan, I'm happy with what this team is building, the direction they're going. And they're still not as good as they've played at times. They're still not where they're going to be. Vooch just told us in the press conference after that Hornets game that he's still trying to figure out, get comfortable with his role in this team and where he's going to get his shots and things like that. And that's just not him. I like tonight. I don't know if you saw, Chris, but tonight Billy was trying to set up, DeMar and Zach pick and roll to get a bucket. And you could see that like at games, it's smooth, right? It works. But tonight, like Zach was popping in a direction that DeMar was trying to go. So they ran into each other a bit. I mean, Zach ended up making a three. But anyway, it's just like that it's kind of rough a little bit at times. That is going to be better because now Zach's going to know when I'm on the right wing, DeMar likes to go this way. If we're on the right wing, DeMar likes to go this way. So they're still working on things and they're going to get better. And that's the cool thing about this, man. Io's going to continue to get better. TBJ, if he continues to get consistent minutes, he's going to get more comfortable and get back in rhythm. Like a lot of these guys are going to get better because when you have guys like when you have those three and Vooch and DeMar and Zach, I mean, you have your safety net in terms of, okay, those guys can take us home. But now that gives guys like Io and the rest of the guys leeway to just focus on getting better in their roles and not have to overextend. And obviously Caruso and Alonzo have to overextend a bit on the defensive end. But it's been great, man. And again, I've been talking for a long time. So is there anything else you want to touch on in this game?
Well, I like what you said about guarding guys like Kevin Durant, which is they're going to get their points, and Kevin Durant can shoot over anybody anyway. But make him shoot from a place he doesn't normally shoot, right? Don't let him get to his spots. Or if he's going to get to a spot, make him uncomfortable, be right in his grill, make the catch harder. Yeah, that kind of stuff. You saw that adjustment with Julius Randle. They were doubling him the first New York game, but they were doubling him basically right as he caught the ball, trying to get out of his hands. And what they did this last game is they waited. They didn't double him right away. They waited until he started to make his move. Yeah. And then they bring Lonzo or they bring Caruso over there or whoever wasn't, Javon, whoever wasn't guarding him, they'd bring that other guy over there right as he was about to make his move to force him into, to speed him up a little bit. Yeah. Just kind of get him a little bit uncomfortable and give him a different look in it. I think Billy talked about it in the press conference, but I thought it was more effective, right? Sometimes it's not easy, but sometimes it's that simple of an adjustment where the timing of your doubling is different just because it's gonna the purpose of your defense is to make the offensive player uncomfortable as possible, right? Yep. So if they can get uncomfortable passing the ball or driving the ball or put him in spots where they're not shooting the way they normally do, because so much of basketball and shooting is rhythm. Yeah, and confidence, and Stacey King says confidence 30,000 times a game, but it's true. It's true. Like the confidence and that familiarity, that kind of muscle memory, that's where that confidence comes from. And so, the more you can put someone in a position where they're not comfortable, where they haven't they don't have thousands of reps at that particular spot or shooting in that particular way or at that particular speed. Those are the little minuscule victories that win you the game.
Yeah.
They add up. They add up. And I know you know this as a coach, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but sometimes when you get into this level of competition where all these guys are buckets, like all these guys are really freaking good.
Yeah.
And especially when you get into the playoffs, when you play them, 4 to 7 times, you get to know those little idiosyncrasies, and that's how you can win. Is you really delve into that, and I think that's why guys like Caruso and Lonzo are so good at their job. And so I thought you saw it play out in the Knicks game pretty well. That little adjustment that worked, and with Kevin Durant, the first half, I thought they did a better job of kind of just being all over him, just making him uncomfortable. So with the Knicks, obviously, one more thing about the Knicks was they didn't have RJ Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
So their point of attack defense, the list of point attack defenders on their team was like 0. They had Alec Burks, probably the best guy at that on the team.
Yeah, probably.
So as I said, I thought that game was not as close as the score indicated, but it was a continuing theme of that third quarter, or that not being able to play with a lead very well. Now they're pulling it out, but something to improve upon as they get more comfortable, more familiar with each other, that they can kind of. I would love to see Billy Donovan at halftime just go in the locker room and say, "All right, guys, we are up 20. I want you to crush their spirit. I want you to come out on a 10-0 run. I want you to get this to 30 in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I want you to blow them. I want you to destroy these guys. Like, don't think we're up 20. We're going to be fine. We can start getting a little fancy with these shots and these passes and start showboating to our bench. None of that. Just crush them. Just be Kawhi Terminators on the court. No, just crush their spirit. Like, I would love to see that from the Bulls. And I don't know if maybe Billy said something like that, but
right.
I would love to see something like that from them. So before we get in the last game, we did get a couple questions here.
Oh yeah.
So the first one was from Skokes. Yeah, he asked, why is Matt Thomas still on the roster? Wouldn't you rather have James Ennis? I would personally. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe Ennis didn't want this role, but he seemed like on Twitter he was saying like, "Sign me, I can play defense, I can shoot." So it doesn't sound like that's the case. I don't know, because Matt Thomas is supposed to be his elite skill is shooting, and I have not seen any of it yet. I just in his limited minutes, which is granted they've been pretty much garbage time every time, but I have not been enthused about it. I don't know. How do you feel about that one?
Yeah, no, I would definitely rather have James Ennis. I think even when they signed him, I was not with it. I didn't. I would rather have had Stanley Johnson. Like Duncan, like I bring up Duncan because that's pretty much his best skill is shooting. But the thing about Duncan is the dude has a size too. He's got gangly long arms, so you can throw him on guys. I mean, and just tell him, hey, try your best to use your length. So he doesn't hurt you as much as a Matt Thomas, because Matt Thomas really on the defensive end is just a complete, you can't do much, with him at all. And if he's not an elite knockdown shooter, good enough to get minutes because you need it, this team needs 3-point attempts. You need shooters on the floor, and he can't get on the floor. So, there's that's a waste of a spot. To me, like for instance, like Stanley Johnson would have been perfect guy to be able to throw at KD and allow Caruso to be on somebody else tonight. That was my whole deal. And I understood, like, you got Stanley, you got DJJ, it's kind of the same deal. But I would rather have a lot of that than a guy just sitting on the bench because he can't add anything else except for shooting. And then when he does get out there, he doesn't really knock down the shots anyway. So.
Yeah. And that's tough. And so, to be completely fair to Matt Thomas, like, I'm sure he's a great player. I'm sure he is a good shooter. And I'm sure that there's a good reason that he's on the roster right now. And it sucks when you're a shooter, and especially, when you're a shooter, you need volume, you need minutes, you need opportunity. Sometimes you're going to go 0 for 7 to start and then finish a game, 8 of 15, right? Like that's going to happen. And when you're playing limited minutes and you're cold until, you're just sitting on the bench for 3.5 quarters and they throw you in garbage time, it's tougher to just get up there and knock down shots when you've been cold for an hour and a half. So I do want to give some leeway there. But you're right. I think the particular skill set that this team needs is not what Matt Thomas is bringing right now. So it's nothing against him. It's just I think Stanley Johnson's size and defensive versatility is definitely more needed right now than having Matt Thomas off the bench if he were shooting well anyway.
Yeah.
Even if he was shooting like his normal numbers, I still think someone like Stanley Johnson would be more effective in that role. So I don't know, but we'll see. Let's talk about this one. Grocery Getters asks, what is Pat Will's ceiling? So this is funny because we talked about, hey, like this is where Pat Will really be effective. But would he, I know we think ideally the role we have in our head for Pat Williams and the talents that he has shown, with hopefully with growing consistency, but still very sporadic. He's an amazing player in that ideal role, but has he produced enough to justify that kind of, that thought process? And do we think he can get there? Do we think he can become the Pat Williams that we kind of hope we're going to see out of him in the next couple of years?
Man, you know me, man. Pat's my dude, man. But
that's why I asked you.
but it's tough. Like you just said about Matt Thomas, you got to give him some leeway because at the same time, who knows, man? Being able to have a full season with a guy like DeMar DeRozan, being able to find his role with this team, you never know. Because I kind of felt like games leading up to when he was injured and against the Knicks, I felt like he was starting to play a little bit better. You saw flashes of okay, it seems like he understands where he needs to be, good at, on defensively, we need you to be able to be that secondary rim protector to protect the rim, being a switchable big wing. And that's what he does well. Well, in terms of being able to understand when to switch, and I think I would have loved to see, I think, honestly, if I'm being honest, no doubt, Patrick Williams the 4. I think with more time, if this team was like a rebuilding organization, give him all the reps. I think he would get better at that, and over time, I think he will get better. But I think where he would have been really, really, really helpful is that small ball 5. I think Pat, that was something to be, I just love what I saw from him in those small ball 5 minutes. And he was another guy that you can have him at the pinch post or short roll, and he usually makes some pretty good decisions. And he's another guy that can knock down that 15-footer, 16-foot jump shot. I mean, we all know that's his shot. And I think that's one of the things. When you start playing with guys like a DeMar DeRozan and a Zach LaVine, and we got Lonzo on the wing that's a knockdown 3-point shooter, and Vooch, you're going to get those shots. You're going to be able to, teams are going to have to say, who knows, maybe teams would be like, okay, we're going to leave Pat open instead of Lonzo, because you got to choose your poison. But if it's in the corner, we all know Pat loves that corner 3. So, I mean, it's just you just don't know. You obviously, like you said, theoretically, he's the guy, but he's been inconsistent, aggressiveness, and just playing well on the defensive end. I felt. I think Chris Herring, I was listening to Chris Herring on Zach Lowe's pod. I want to say it was at the end of last season. And he was saying that Chris Herring asked him, between Isaac Okoro and Patrick Williams, who do you think will be the better player if you had to say right now? And I think he said exactly what I feel, that I've changed a bit of how I felt about Pat. But I think Chris Herring said that he thinks Isaac Okoro defensively, he buys him long-term. Mm-hmm. Offensively, long-term, he buys Pat because he thinks that he sees things in Pat's game that gives you that. And I got to be honest, when I saw those summer league reps, You can see it. You can see where Pat can get his money. You can see where if he gets the consistent touches, that's where he would get his buckets. Like there were times in the summer league where come on, Pat, take that shot. But when he got into certain areas, like he wasn't looking to pass the ball, and that's what you wanted to see. But obviously, when you're playing with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Vooch, you're not going to get that many touches. The hierarchy, you're kind of down. So,
yep, yeah. So it's interesting because he reminds me. This is going to be a weird comparison, but he reminds me a lot of Wendell Carter Jr. in the sense that you can see the talent in a lot of different areas. Right? He's not bad at any one thing. Like he's a decent shooter. He can get to the mid range. He could finish at the bucket. Like he's got decent footwork. You could see him as a small ball five. You can see him in the post. The difference between Wendell Carter, obviously offensively, is the creation ability. And you saw in that summer league when he was given the ball and told to create. Now he had lots of turnovers because he was trying stuff and he was, it was new for him. But I agree with you that if he were on a rebuilding team where he was the guy and was given those reps, I think by year 2 or 3, he would be a really, really good player. I think we'd be talking about him like we talk about Jason Tatum, or that kind of like caliber of player where you could see that creation ability growing, and with his size and his physique and his skill set, I mean, sky's the limit for him. There's nothing about him that screams to me as far as his skill set and his physical attributes that he can't do it, that he can't be an all-star, that he can't be a superstar. So here's the comment that also is a comparison to Wendell Carter Jr. So Grocery Getter says he doesn't seem assertive enough on the offensive end. Too many games where he ends up single shot attempts. So part of that may be, as you mentioned, the offensive hierarchy, where he's not getting a lot of those reps. But you do have to admit that sometimes the aggressiveness comes and goes and doesn't always seem consistent. And that was the way it was with Wendell. I thought the one valid criticism of Wendell last year was his kind of lack of assertiveness or aggressiveness or lack of confidence maybe in his own abilities. Do you see that as a hindrance to Patrick Williams? Like, can he have the personality that he has and still reach his potential as a basketball player?
Yes. I've played and I've coached a bunch of players that don't have that give me the ball every second of the game mentality, but still would give you 20 and 20 plus, 10 rebounds and some assists. Like, I think that's a little bit overblown. Like, obviously, as much crap as Wendell has taken it from Chicago, go take a look at what he's doing in Orlando. It's I think that's, the mentality thing to me is overblown. I think with Pat is he just turned 20, and he's 2 years from, well, now he's a little bit more, but last season he was 2 years from being in high school where he was a point guard and he was getting guys the ball. Then he goes to Florida State. He comes off the bench. They don't need a lot of offense from him. They just need him to be a switchable big wing, grab rebounds, block shots. And then you come to the NBA, and then they're like, hey, brother, you got the skill. Here's the ball. That's a tough adjustment, man. It's a tough adjustment. Yes, it's very, for some people, it's probably annoying because you just want somebody picked that high to just take off. You look at Anthony Edwards and LaMelo, and they're looking at those guys and like, well, why can't Pat be that? And it's like two totally different players, two totally different situations. And I just feel like with Pat, like it's tough. He went last season where he's like, you got Thad in here, you got Zach in here, you got the whole organization in here. Hey, take your shots, man. Be aggressive. Going into summer league, gets all the shots, all the reps. So now getting into the season, all right, Pat, go sit in the corner, and you may get a shot tonight. You may get 5 shots, you may get 10 shots. Who knows? Just be ready. And it's like, that's tough, man. That's tough. Yeah. It's really tough. So it's something that you got to think about, man. It's never, and Stokes brings up Scotty Barnes, but like, I mean, look at the reps Scotty is getting. when we played against the Raptors, look how many times he was touching the ball and how many sets were called for him, how many times he was setting up guys. Like, it's a different situation, man. Who knows how, it's just,
And that's always tough because it's never a one-to-one thing, right? Now, Scotty Barnes and Patrick Williams obviously both came from Florida State and have similar skill sets in the sense that they are, have creation ability as a big wing forward guy. But as you mentioned, the Toronto Raptors are in a different situation this year, and he is kind of playing, in some sense, their Vooch role, where he's in that high post and he has the ball in his hands a lot. He's moving it. He's kind of like how the Bulls had Wendell doing last year a little bit at the beginning of the season, and Vooch and Patrick Williams is, as you mentioned, hey, go stand in the corner, maybe you'll get shots. Like, not having guaranteed offense or creation assigned to you or expected of you is going to be difficult on your development. It's going to slow that down. It's going to change the trajectory of your development for sure. Yeah. So I think, like if you asked me, if you wanted Patrick Williams to be the best player he could be in the next 3 years, are the Bulls the right situation for him? I would tell you no. No way. I'd put him in Detroit or Houston or the Spurs. I'd put him somewhere where maybe even not where they're like bottoming out, but where he would have clear hierarchy in the offense, and he'd be, one of the top 2 guys expected to create buckets or opportunities for others. So he's not going to have that here, and clearly he's out for the season, and that sucks for his development. He's gonna take longer now. There's no doubt about it. But I think I agree with you with the mentality thing. I thought it was overblown with Wendell. I think it is not as big an issue as is being said here with Patrick. No, I mean, obviously you want him to be aggressive, but you can be. You don't have to have an aggressive. You don't have to be aggressive in your. I don't know how to say this correctly, but you don't have to be an aggressive person to be aggressive on the basketball court.
Yeah,
and vice versa. So he can be chill and relaxed and still be able to dominate in a basketball setting. I think it's just going to be a matter of reps and opportunity for him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's going to get that in the next little bit, but we also don't need him to be that. We don't need him to be that guy because we got DeMar and Zach and Vooch and Caruso and Lonzo. Like, we got a lot of guys who, have creation, and Kobe, right? Like, all these guys already. Yeah. But I do think he's the X factor down the line. I think he's going to be really important to the franchise around the time where his rookie deal comes up, for an extension. I think it's going to be a really important time for him and for the team. But I do think in general, you're right. Fans, we always want it now. We want to see that leap. We want to see a linear improvement trajectory. And that's rarely what happens with these young men. So patience is always the key, and situation is always important. And right now, Patrick Williams doesn't have the right situation, is obviously injured for the whole year. And we're just gonna have to be more patient with it. But I'm not that worried about it. I still believe in his potential. I think whether it's here or somewhere else, he's going to be a really, really good player. So that leads to my next question. Well, not my question, but Juice Man says, all right, so if we want to take this team to the next level, who can we add and what's the price? Right? Because if a deal came up where you could ship a Patrick Williams out for an immediate upgrade at that position or some other position of need, would you do that? And what kind of targets would you even be thinking about at that kind of price point? Because that's tough, because that one hurts me to even ask.
Yeah. As someone that is a huge Pat guy, someone that wanted to take a flight up to New York and find Mitch Robinson myself, when you see this team and you see the potential offensively, in terms of, I think they could be even better, and defensively, you see where they're at. I mean, Pat might be expendable a bit, because you look at DeMar, was he 32? 32, I
Yes, he
think.
is. 32.
Zach is just turned 26, I believe.
Yep.
So it's like, it's probably the time to capitalize on what you have. So if you really think, if you're AK and you're in me and you really, really think, you bring Billy and all the coaching staff into a meeting and you say, hey guys, do you think if we add an Aaron Gordon or if we add a Brandon Clark or a Pascal Siakam, is that going to be enough to get us to title contention? And if they tell you yes, they, as much as that would hurt my soul, it probably has to get done. I think Mark K brought it up, on Twitter. Shout out Mark Caranzolis. I think he made a great point on his when he tweeted.
A rare occasion, obviously. Rare occasion.
When the Nuggets were ready to compete, they went out and got Aaron Gordon. They went out and added that secondary rim protector.
And they look good.
Yeah.
They looked real good.
You got to capitalize, man. When you feel like you have something that can be big, you got to add that last piece. You just have to. So if that means shipping out whatever the combination would be, Pat, Kobe, TBJ, to get a guy that can come in and be that starter to come in here and really take the team to the next level, I mean, you have to do it. I think the Bulls have shown you enough early to be like, okay, if we can get something to add in, we got to do it. So, and the price thing, I don't know. That's tough. That's tough.
Hey, we're only out a second rounder from the tampering investigation, which I was thrilled. We haven't talked about it, so I was thrilled with. I was like, you guys huffed and puffed for like 3 months about how big this penalty was going to be, and then you're like, oh well, we didn't really find much, so just throw us a second rounder and we'll call it a day. All right, sounds good. I wondered, can we just buy the 60th pick in the next draft for like $2 million, and then ship that to the league and be like, hey, we'll take a $2 million fine. Congratulations. Just so we don't have to like screw over somebody's draft, dream. Yeah. Because it seems really dumb to me. I would rather just hey, just charge Jerry Reinsdorf $10 million. I don't care. I don't care. But don't take away the second round pick. Man. Anyways, yeah, that was interesting. But Portland right now is right around that 15, 16 slot, right outside the lottery where it's protected. I would say if you can trade that pick and one of Pat, Torbound Jr., whatever Pat will probably have to be, because he makes like $7-8 million. Derek Jones Jr. makes 9.5, almost 10. So those are kind of your decent trade chips. But if you can put together some combination of two guys, and at first you can get someone back like Jeremy Grant or
let's go get Larry
Harrison
Nance,
Barnes. Harrison Barnes. Yeah, I was gonna say. I told you guys would trade Derek Jones Jr. and a first round pick back for Larry Nance at the deadline, and then we basically got the same deal, but added a second round pick. So I mean, I'm just saying, could happen. And Larry Nance is doing pretty nice, and he looks like a decent four.
I mean, look at what he did against us, man. He was a catalyst to that comeback win.
Yes, he was.
Come on,
no question.
Come hang out with us, brother.
No question. No, I would love to have. I would love to have him in the first place. But so far, every time I've come up with a plan, I feel like it's a good plan, and AK outdoes me. AK outdoes me. Rashawn Holmes, King TMC. I love Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do, because he's a good enough player where you'd have to start him. Yeah. But I don't think you can play him and Vooch together. I really think it's like you got to find a guy who's like a 3-4 height, like someone who's like 6'8" and athletic, like not a center, like not a Daniel Tice type of guy. Yeah. You got to get a guy who's like, anyways. Skokes, let's see.
I also don't think the Kings would want to get rid of him. I think they like him a lot.
They like him a lot. Although here's the other part of that's an issue is with the play-in tournament, and especially the East has like 12 teams that think they're gonna make the play-in, or 13 teams that are gonna make, like, it's basically Orlando and Detroit that are like, we're good. We're taking these lottery picks. We'll see you guys next year. The Cavs are over 500. The Wizards are over 500. The Hornets were last time I checked. I think in the 11th spot right now is the New York Knicks at 11 and 12. They're 11th right now. And then the Raptors are like 10 and 14, I think, or 10 and 13 or whatever.
Yeah.
They're not far behind.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of sellers this season. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But you look at a team, and the West is a lot weaker than it was. I mean, you got Utah, Suns, and the Jazz. I'm sorry, the Jazz, the Suns, and the Warriors. And everyone else looks kind of meh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's going to be – I think we're going to get someone from out West. So I would love to have Harrison Barnes because he makes around $20 million. We could cobble something together.
Yeah.
We can make it worth – they could be like, hey, you know what? Patrick Williams is a guy we think we can build around for the future with Fox and Halliburton. I mean, that would be I would watch that team.
Yeah.
I would watch that team. Those three with Rashawn Holmes? Yes, sir.
Dude, Harrison Barnes would be – man.
I think he'd be ideal. Is he going to push you over the top, though?
I think he has potential to do that. I think he's another guy you could throw the ball to late in the shot clock, and he can get you a bucket, And he's another guy defensively you can switch up, guard big wings. He rebounds well. He has that championship experience with the Warriors, so I think he'd be a great guy to have on this team. So
have you heard of this guy here? Spook Long says Benjamin Simmons. You ever heard of this guy?
Oh yeah,
heard he wants out.
Yeah,
I don't see anything that the Bulls could offer that Philly would be interested in other than Zach LaVine, which obviously is not going to happen.
I low key don't think they want to get rid of Ben Simmons. I think they're making it that hard to trade him because they don't truly want to get rid of him. I think they're that close. I think they really think, or at least Morey. I don't know about Doc, but I think Morey really feels like, either you give me a superstar or an all-star, or we're keeping him.
Yeah.
So, and Ben, like I said, I think I talked about it on here multiple times. I love Ben. I love him as a player. Some people may hate him. I guess I get that side of things. But the biggest thing for me is I'm glad that he's finally taking care of that mental thing, because I have talked to you before. I know someone that used to play basketball with his dad, and he has talked about, Ben having depression and anxiety, so it makes a lot of sense that in these big games where he kind of crumbles a bit, I think it makes total sense. So I just hope that he really works on himself and doesn't care what anybody says. Like, just turn off Twitter, forget about what people are tweeting about, what people are saying about him. Really work on your mental, man, because that is not it's not something to make fun of. That stuff really messes with you. So take care of himself. I mean, first,
he's human. He's human first. Yeah, I obviously wish him the best. And I didn't, I think Spook was being sarcastic about trying to get Ben, because I don't think that's really a viable target for us anymore. But I would love Ben Simmons as our starting four.
Come on, man.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You got
Transition?
Ben Simmons, Alex Caruso, and Lonzo Ball as your defensive stalwarts. Like, no, but every ball handler that gets in the court is like, you know what? I'm feeling a little under the weather tonight. I don't think I'm going to go.
That's crazy to think about, Chris. Vooch would have the easiest job he's ever had if you had Ben Simmons, Lonzo, and Caruso.
They'd never get to the rim.
Never.
They'd never get to the rim.
Vooch would literally love his life. Like, oh my goodness.
I think he's pretty happy as it is.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
he's having a great time.
But seeing that guy, that 6'10" Aussie, that can really just take the best player out of the game. I mean, come on, that's
yes, sir. Yeah.
Whew.
Let's see. Yeah, grocery getters, go get Lowry.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what I was gonna say? First of all, December 15th, which is 11 days from now, that is when a lot of people who sign their contracts in the offseason, when they're eligible to be traded again. So I think we're going to start hearing rumors from mid-December until the trade deadline in February. But I've said many times, and I will say it again because I love this man, but the trade deadline will be the 1-year anniversary of when we traded Wendell Carter Jr. to the Magic. And if you want to talk about the type of player that this team could use, the exact thing we could use, a switchable defensive 4/small ball 5 that can shoot, that can pass, that has a little creation. Did you see he took that little step back the other day against Jokic? Man, I'm happy for my guy. Happy for my guy Wendell. But Wendell on this team as like our backup 4 or even starting 4 with which instead of Tay, that would be fun. I think it'd be fun. I know it's never gonna happen. I'm living in a pipe dream here, and I know Bulls fans are gonna like immediately send me hate mail for saying that. But Wendell's having a great season, and he's that type of archetype. Like a 4 or 5. He's playing a lot more. He's playing like 70% as a power forward this season, and doing really well. Doing really well next to Bamba. So that would be fun. But who's another realistic candidate that we can actually talk about here?
Just real quick on the Wendell front, right? I think you're finally, or if people are actually watching Magic games, which who knows, maybe they're not, maybe they're just looking at the highlights of Wendell, but like you're seeing when Wendell doesn't have to worry about helping all the other 4 or 3 guys out there on the defensive side of the ball, he can actually play defense on his primary position and actually do well instead of help Kobe, help Zach, and then, oh, shoot, I got to hurry up and get back to Embiid. Oh, shoot, I got to hurry up and get back to whoever it is that's a star 5 in that game. Like, if you allow him to play his primary role and maybe sometimes have to help off, that happens in basketball. But for the most part, being able to be in his primary position on help, primary position when his guy has the ball, I mean – anyway, but yeah, what were you gonna say?
I got you. Well, anyways, I just want to say grocery getters. I knew you were kidding, bud. I knew. I was just messing around. But with Lowry. Oh, for Marcus, we cannot get Thad back. We cannot trade for him. The only way that we could get him is if he got traded and waived, and then we picked him up. Like no one else claimed him off waivers. I think that's the only way we can get Thad Young back. But man. Thad Young would be killer. Thad Young would be so much fun on this team. The man is not playing.
If that was the guy that came back, that we sent instead of Lowry.
Yeah, you put your money on a championship this season, baby. But that'll be he is very like Wendell in the sense that he's play that high post. He can defend those big wings, and I mean that's the type of player we need. So, Brandon Clark was another one you mentioned. I wanted to see what you thought about Brandon Clark because he, at least until recently, was out of the rotation for Memphis, and he's kind of in that mold too, and he's making less than $5 million, which is that trade exception we might be able to use to bring someone like that in.
Yeah, no, Brandon Clark. Let me tell you, if they don't want that brother, he can go over ahead and come on over here. And
That's right.
One of the things that I like about Brandon, and I'm sure you do as well, because I think you were one of the first people to bring up Brandon Clark as a realistic option, is that defensively switchable, very springy, bouncy athlete, shot blocker. Offensively, he can give you everything DJJ gives you. DJJ might be a slightly better shooter, maybe, but in terms of three-point shooting, And who knows? I mean, DJJ made a couple tonight, so whatever.
Hey man, he made 2, I think. I remember.
Yeah. But yeah, no, man. I mean, he is exactly what you want. I mean, the dude is another lob threat, good screener, but defensively, that's why I would love him the most, because you can have him play the big wing, the 4. Against like KD's in the world, and like that he's what you would like. Cheap option, super uber athletic, and I mean just a lob threat on the offensive end as well. So and that's what this team I would like to see more of. Actually, I mean I know they've been doing a bit more But I mean, using DJJ as a lob threat in the cut, using Zach more off ball as a lob threat, like just let's start attacking teams differently, But yeah, no, man, I love Brandon.
Eric Hoagland brings up a good point. So the Gafford trade, he says he misses Gafford a little bit more than Carter for that kind of role that he's looking for. Rim running, defensive, athletic, big with great depth. I mean, so Brandon Clark kind of fits that springy, can dunk. I think with Gafford, I think he's in a great role right now with the Wizards for what they need him to do. I will say with Gafford, the struggles that he had here were, number one, rebounding the ball. He's springy enough to get offensive rebounds, but I think the problem was his positioning on defense was kind of suspect, boxing out. Now he's gotten a little bit better in Washington, but also, I think the Bulls tried to have him handle the ball and pass in that high post a little bit too much for his skill set. He'll get better at it in time, but I think he was just kind of out of his depth a little bit, and so was Wendell at the beginning of the year. But I mean, Gafford would be a lot of fun to have on this team, I think. But Tony Bradley, I think he's not as springy as Gafford, but I do think Tony Bradley in his limited minutes as a center has been pretty effective. Defensively, I think he's been really solid. But yeah, Gafford would obviously be fun with the fast breaks, the dunking. I think that what hurts on that one is more the fact that Troy Brown Jr. hasn't really been in the rotation as much, and doesn't, at least right now, doesn't seem like a piece that they're looking to retain going forward. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but I agree. Like Gafford was fun. Gafford and Wendell, I think I'm really happy that both of them are thriving in their new situations, because I don't think either of them were used as effectively as they should have been here or placed in positions to succeed. But I mean, Gafford just got paid. Wendell just got paid. So I'm happy for those guys. And I obviously wish them continued success unless it's against the Bulls. One more. So Kevin Love, that one's a little tougher. If he does get bought out, my only worry with him is, well, defensively, I worry about him playing next to Vooch in lineups. Or if you're playing with him as the 5 with DeMar as the 4, I worry about that defensively too. So I feel like my focus has been more on a defensive-minded kind of 4 or 5. I mean, there's no doubt that Kevin Love would help with our bench shooting. I'm not sure if Kevin Love even thinks he's like a starting quality, 4 for a playoff championship caliber contender type team anymore. But LaMarcus Aldridge is making like 80% of his mid-range shots, so you never know. I mean, in the right role, you can find success. So I'm not out on the idea. I think he presents some different problems that you'd have to kind of work around and see how it would fit. But if he becomes available, I think definitely a call you would make just to see if that could be something you'd want to change or somebody you'd want to pursue. Sorry. Tristan Thompson, Skokes mentions Tristan Thompson. He is a really good rebounder. He's obviously a lot older now. I do worry a little bit about him being able to defend guys like LeBron and KD. And I don't know if he'd fulfill that role quite as well as some of the other people we talked about. But here's another one, Robert Covington. I mean, they paid 2 first-rounders to get him.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do. Yeah, give them their first back and get Covington. How can we get Covington? How can we get Covington and Nance? That's my question.
Honestly,
that would be really fun.
I mean, talk about adding some, Covington being that 3-and-D guy, and Larry Nance, man. Like Larry Nance.
I'm already on my way to the trade machine. You keep talking. I'm on my way.
Larry Nance has been like, wow, man. I think at my job, I was at work one day, and one of my coworkers was like, I was kind of down. I'm like, I shouldn't say down, but I thought that when we had that deal solidified with Portland, I'm like, with Cleveland, we're getting Larry Nance. You know what I mean? Like Larry Nance is coming to Chicago. It's going to be a seamless fit. And then I saw it was DJJ. I'm like, I mean, okay, all right, I can see what they think, but I would much rather have had Larry Nance. And my coworker was like, "Oh, you don't know ball, you don't know ball. Like Derrick Jones Jr. is way better than Larry Nance. He dunks better." And I'm like, "Wow." Like, I don't know, but like I would have loved to have Larry Nance, man, because I don't think if you had Larry Nance, I don't know if you would have a clear weakness right now. I think you would have about what you need going forward. Obviously, you could add on the margins, but I think you'd be in a pretty nice situation. I mean, you got your four that can stretch the floor and rebound, and get in passing lanes and start turning. Like he just would have been a seamless fit, man.
Let's see. Tony Bradley can't be traded until December 15th. That's fine. Trailblazers cannot reacquire Derrick Jones this season, so he wouldn't be able to be used. So the dream is dead as far as getting both of them here, but that would be really, really funny. Some friends of ours mentioned like Terrence Ross might be an option just as kind of fulfill that Kobe role.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a pretty rough season, but he's also on a tanking team, so maybe with the right motivation, he can be in a better spot.
Yep.
All right, I want to talk moving on from this, and we got to a bunch of questions. So if you guys have any more questions, let us know. I want to talk about the Brooklyn game, and I want to talk specifically about the king of the fourth, Mr. DeMar DeRozan. Holy crap, man. DeMar DeRozan has been absolutely unbelievable. So I just want to see what you think. What have you thought about DeMar DeRozan's performance these last 3 games?
I mean, the smile can't come off my face when you want to start talking about DeMar DeRozan. I think, when you got DeMar, you kind of had a sense of like what you're gonna get. You got a guy that can be your second option on some nights and third option on others, depending on Vooch. But I mean, the playmaking was something that you really banked on him. When getting him in late game situations with like taking care of the ball. Not so much like obviously he can score, but like it was more so like we got a guy that you can run some, bring it up. We won't turn the ball over, and we can get into our offense and get a good shot. But like he's been that and more.
He's been all NBA. He's been all NBA. Like he and Zach are shoo-ins to the All-Star game at this point, right?
Yeah. Starters too, probably 2 starters. I don't know, but
I think DeMar's starting. I think DeMar's starting for sure at this point.
Wow, man! Like DeMar has, I mean, for me, like one of the biggest. I think when we had Darnell Mayberry on, we had talked about how this team could fit, and with Zach on a contract year, would he be okay with like deferring at times and being the guy in late game situations that could be comfortable with being off ball and allowing DeMar to be, depending on who's hot, but most of the time it's been DeMar and they're both really good in the fourth this year. But like most of the time it's been DeMar taking big time shots at the end of the games and things like that. So you just wondered if that was going to be, if Zach was going to really take that step knowing he was looking for that big money. But like the fact of seeing these guys love playing with each other, Zach literally in games giving it to DeMar and being like, hey, go to work. Like it's been amazing, man. Like it's been amazing to see that we have 2 guys, 3 when Vooch is doing his thing. But for the most part, you have DeMar and Zach that you at the end of games, teams are sweating bullets because you don't know. You got Zach who can shoot it all over the floor. Wherever he's at, most of the time he can knock that shot down. DeMar, where he wants to get. You know exactly where his spots where he wants to get, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't. He will get to his spot. He'll shoot over a contested hand. Some games he'll shoot over the help. It doesn't matter. If he's in his spots, for the most part, it's going to go down. And wow, man, talk about the basketball gods blessed us, man. Because I think, crazy enough, he's probably outperforming that contract he got.
Yep.
So
No, I'd say so. I think he has easily been the best player on the team this year. As good as I think Zach has been, as good as Zach has been, I think he wasn't as good as last year, which is fine. They're winning more. He's doing his job. Like, he's still putting up great numbers. His shooting number is a little bit down percentage, but I wanted to read you some stats from Will Gottlieb, our friend Will Gottlieb. You guys should definitely follow him on Twitter and follow. He's now one of the co-hosts with Mark Caranzolas on Bulls HQ. Zach and DeMar in the clutch this year. Zach has had 39 minutes in the clutch. He scored 46 points, which is the most in the entire league. He's shooting 52% from the field, 94% from the free throw line. And here's the biggest stat that impressed me. He has not had a single turnover in the clutch this year, which I thought was his biggest single weakness from last year, was turnovers in crunch time. DeMar has been a huge, huge help with that. Obviously, Lonzo and Caruso and Vooch have a big effect on that as well. DeMar, in 37 crunch time minutes, 36 points, which is 7th in the NBA, shooting 59% from the field and 100% from the free throw line with only one turnover. These two guys have been unbelievable. Unbelievable. They have a plus 9.1 net rating in crunch time. So that's Will Gottlieb that tweeted that yesterday. So this is what we wanted to happen. This is the reason why we thought DeMar would be the perfect candidate to bring in next to Zach, because he takes some of that scoring load off. He's reliable in crunch time. He gets to his spots, as you said. He doesn't get sped up. He doesn't get slowed down. The man is a machine. The man is just in his office doing his work. Doesn't care what visitors come. Doesn't care who's emailing him. The man just does his work, and he gets it done every day, and he's doing it at the highest level I've ever seen. Now the question that King TMC asks here that I want to ask you is, can he keep this up for 82 games and into the playoffs? Can he do what he's doing now? Can he continue to do this? Is it sustainable?
You know what? I think so, man, because, okay, maybe not as at the clip, but I think it can be close to, because if you think about like how teams are playing the Bulls, for the most part, DeMar's not getting the best defender. Like, teams are still sending the best defender to Zach. And I think going forward, maybe teams switch it up, but I don't know. I as a coach, like, I don't know if I switch it up. I would probably say, just let that dude continue to shoot contested twos, and we'll keep our best defender on the perimeter guarding Zach, because that's the sharpshooter, the guy that can get it off the bounce, and he can also knock down 3-point shots. I'd probably keep my best defender on him. But DeMar is probably not going to get the best defender every single night. And I think that's huge. I think it's huge because no matter what you think about Vooch, right? No matter what you think about him, he's going to get a certain amount of attention every single night.
Yeah. And
it's going to allow DeMar to get to his spots. It's going to allow DeMar to not have the stressful kind of shots. And like a lot of these shots that that DeMar is taking, those are the shots that DeMar is completely fine with taking. These are not shots that, he's overextending himself and like, taking crazy whatever. These are shots that you can clearly see that he has worked on in off season for a very long time. And if you're an avid NBA watcher, you understand that DeMar is always taking these types of shots. So I think that's one of the things too. And you got to remember too, like in Toronto, even San Antonio, he always had to touch the ball. The ball was, except for Kyle Lowry, when he had Kyle Lowry. But like he always had to be the guy to take the tough shots, whatever. Doesn't have to do that all the time. He does that because like most of the time this season, he's been high. Like when he gets going, I'm obviously going to keep getting the ball. But Zach LaVine is another guy, and he's showing you with his stats in the fourth quarter that he's another guy too that you can get. I mean, tonight he had 13 attempts in the free throw line. Like my God, yes, please continue, Zach. At the end of the game, he attacked the basket where I think you've seen multiple times. Zach still has times where he makes you scratch your head with some of the shots he takes. But I think in the crunch time, the last couple games, like there's a couple possessions where I'm like, whoa, okay, that old Zach would have tried to take a contested step back three, but tonight he got downhill on a shot that he could have taken a contested step back three, but he took it downhill and got to the bucket and finished and up and under. And it's like, I think over time it's going to get better. I think right now you're just getting wins how you can get wins because guys are still trying to gel and get even better. Like I think people see the wins and like, oh man, they're where they need to be. Like, but it's like the best thing about this is they're getting wins, but they're not completely 100% like in sync and offensively. Because I think you can tell by if you look at, obviously in the transition they're damn good, but in half court that's when they drop off a bit. And I think that's going to change with more time. As you can see for people that watched the Nets game tonight, like I told Chris earlier, it's like when they would when Billy had told DeMar to come to that left hash and told guys to spread out, and they were going to run the Zach and DeMar pick and roll, which eventually with Zach usually turns to a pick and pop. But like Zach popped to the wrong side and he ran into DeMar. Like that stuff happens when you're not completely gelled. You're not completely at where you need to be when you're playing, as you're learning. Because once you start to learn and figure out where guys like to be on the floor, that stuff doesn't happen. But that's where I'm at with DeMar. I think that it can continue because he won't see the best defender every single night. And when you have Vooch and Zach on the floor, it's not going to be as stressful as it has been in the past because teams could just really key in on him. I think I'm on that was really long-winded, but I think I'm on the end of I think it can't continue. Sorry. Sorry.
No worries. That was really good. It's interesting because I agree with you. I think the efficiency may not always be as good as it is now, or the numbers. But as you mentioned, he's getting to his spots and he's taking shots that he's always taken. He's been taking them for 13 years. You notice with Zach does still get rushed a little bit under pressure, and he'll get at those spots where you're like, did you really need that step back three there? Sometimes there was a game where he pulled a double team into the corner with him as he dribbled. Like he dribbled into a corner, getting double teamed to like put himself in a tough spot to make a pass or a shot. So he's got to work these things out. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of room for improvement there. But just having DeMar and Zach next to each other takes pressure off of both of them and allows them to take better shots and make better decisions. Now, King TMC mentions the playoffs are different. You can game plan for a player better. And that has been a weakness of DeMar's, where they have game planned for him in past playoff series. Now, I think where that's different, and it always comes down to situation, but the situation with this team, he has a lot more high-end talent than I think the Toronto teams that he was on did have. Now, Kyle Lowry is an amazing talent, as you know, but he is not the scoring threat that Zach LaVine is. And they never had someone, like Valanciunas gets better every year, it seems like. Yeah. But he wasn't that guy. He wasn't as much that guy, I think, when they had those teams. So, but you never know. I mean, that trend could continue. But my initial thought on that is, I think it's going to be they're definitely going to game plan for DeMar. They're going to game plan for Zach, and they're going to have to counter that. But DeMar does have playoff experience. He's probably seen some of the looks that they're going to throw at him in the playoffs. Zach is more who I'm worried about because he's never been in that situation. But you saw what happened with a very similar player in Devin Booker when he had a guy like Chris Paul next to him and the Suns went to the finals. I'm not saying the Bulls go to the finals, but I do think that having stars next to you that have been in those situations before will help kind of ease the transition for Zach. And I think it's going to make DeMar's job easier in the playoffs. And Vooch obviously has been in the playoffs as well and has has performed very well individually in the playoffs, even if his team, didn't end up doing a lot of winning. So I do think that core three guys is going to be really, really hard, even in a half court defensive setting in the playoffs, to guard on a nightly basis. It's just going to be tough. They have to guard those three guys. That's going to be a tall task. Now the Bulls are going to have to guard them too. And, I've been encouraged by the defense, but it needs to continue. It needs to be sustainable as well. And we'll see if it is. It stayed within the top 10 for the most part, other than I think after the Pacers game, I want to say it dropped to like 13th or 10th or 11th or something, but it's back to 7th. So, yeah. And as Eric says, no LeBron in the East. And there may not be a LeBron in the West for very long either if things continue to go this way and the Lakers continue being extremely underwhelming this season.
I think that's a great point, man, because I think those Toronto Raptors teams that he was on for the most part, I think they had the best record one year. I mean, LeBron really dismantled. I mean, think about it as us Bulls fans, man, like what he did to us, So, I think offensively, it's tough, man, because teams, I don't know, maybe teams probably play a little bit more zone against the Bulls unless they show improvement over the year against it. But I don't think there's very many teams that have the three guys that the Bulls have that have great synergy in terms of, offensively, what you can run, how they play off each other. It's going to be very hard, for teams to do. I mean, look at what the Bulls against the Heat, which I think defensively, I think they're probably, without Bam, man, that's going to be tough. Who knows how they're going to be when Bam gets back. But and that King TMC brings a great point. Giannis in the Bucks.
I was gonna say the two teams that I am worried about are the Bucks and the Heat, because they do have three guys that kind of have that synergy and that defensive talent that they can match up with us fairly well.
But hopefully we wouldn't see those guys until like an ECF or something like that. But,
well, it looks like both the Heat and the Bucks are probably going to be in the top four. I think the top four is going to be Nets, Bucks, Heat, Bulls. And then I think the Hawks are coming. I think they're going to be 5 or 6. I don't think the Wizards and the Cavs are going to be this good the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. So I think you'll see Philly come back around once they're a little bit healthier. Or who am I missing? The Celtics haven't been super good either. Indiana ain't doing anything. Who am I missing here? Yeah, Charlotte. I think it's Brooklyn, Chicago, Milwaukee, Miami. I think you're going to be top 4. I think you're going to have Philly and Atlanta probably in that 5, 6, and then I think 7, 8, 9 is probably going to be some combination of Washington, Boston, and New York. So we'll see. And that 10th spot could be Charlotte, could be Toronto, could be Cleveland.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. So, I mean, I would love to get if we can lock down the 1st or 2nd seed and end up facing a team like Cleveland or Washington or Charlotte in the first round. I think that would make me feel a lot better about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, Cleveland actually is. I never thought I'd be saying this, but they could give us some problems with their size.
Yeah,
in a playoff series if we don't make a move at the trade deadline. That's a team that would be. I still think we'd beat them in a 7-game series, but I think that would be a really interesting matchup to go against. Yeah. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here talking about the playoff matchups in November or December now. But I wanted to ask you just about the Nets game, if anything stood out to you in that second half, because in the first half I got to watch, I thought they did a really poor job at getting into the paint or getting downhill in general. They relied a lot on that corner 3 and a lot on the DeMar pull-up mid-range, which, it kept them afloat.
Yeah. But
it was clear it wasn't doing all it needed to do. So did they get downhill a lot more in the second half? Is that what kind of led to that comeback?
I thought they did I definitely thought they did a better job of getting into the paint in the second half. I mean, like I said, Zach had 13 free throws. attempted in the whole game. And I just, and also too, there were a lot of, like, there were some calls, man, that were very frustrating. There was a call where DeMar clearly got fouled and he shot it. They called it on the floor. I think a couple times with DeMar. DeMar would get fouled and he finished and they called it on the floor. There were a couple times like that, man. And maybe a couple more than a couple that should have been more free throws. And I mean, the free throw discrepancy was big. But still, I thought there were times for more free throws. But I thought the Bulls did a really good job in terms of one of the things I wanted to talk about was James Harden. He looks. I don't want to talk trash on him.
He looked gassed tonight.
Yeah.
I think it's because they played last night because he was getting right to the rim and just
even in the second half too,
pulling a vooch.
He leaving them short or just it was like, man, like even old James, it didn't matter if it was on the second back of the back, he was still giving you 30 plus. So it's like, man, but the way Lonzo was guarding James Harden, like what I loved about it was like, you know how he's so good at like if you reach in, he's good at like getting that like rip foul. Same thing that like DeMar does. And I love the way Lonzo was guarding him. Like he just kept his arms out wide. He didn't reach in. He stayed chest to chest with him, and I loved seeing him guard James. Like you could see that he was just so in. Every time he had to guard him on ball, you could tell in his head, it's like, don't foul, keep my hands wide, don't just move my feet.
He was behind his head,
and I'm just like this. You love seeing that stuff, man. But again, man, I just think as much as DeMar going absolutely out of his mind, at times in the fourth quarter, I still think half court, they got to get better. They have to find a way to continually just grind out, like, yes, again, like it's NBA. There are times where you're just going to have to throw the ball to Zach or throw the ball to DeMar and say, hey, go get us a bucket. But I really think they have to start continuing to get better half court, just grinding out possessions and finding the best shot. A lot of times they find the shot that the defense is willing to give up. But I just would like to see them grind and find the shot that they want. And obviously, I mean, they're going to leave Lonzo open, fine. Lonzo is a guy, that can shoot 40% on catch shooting threes. So I guess that's what you want. But at the same time, I would love to see them try to generate some type of, movement to get a drive to the basket, try to get to the free throw line in moments like that, But other than that, that's like nitpicking, man. I mean, when you got two guys like DeMar and Zach, you kind of just, especially in the fourth, I mean, you just kind of let them cook at certain points, man. It's just like, why am I going to take the ball out of your hands when you got it going like that? So yeah, man.
Yeah. Hey, King TMC, thanks so much for the love. Appreciate that. We love doing a live show. We love interacting with you guys, and hopefully we're doing something that you find interesting or valuable. We're just doing it because we love it. So
yeah, man.
But you're also right. The Bulls in transition are one of the best teams in the league at transition scoring efficiency. In the half court, they're pretty middling right now, and I think that's what's holding back their overall offensive rating.
Yeah.
They do have to get better at that because, as the King TMC mentions, that's playoffs, right? The playoffs, you have a lot more half court, a lot less transition. So that's something I think the Bulls need to improve upon. And I think they will just organically as they grow together and get more comfortable.
Yeah.
And hopefully with some better health luck. My goodness. But that's definitely something to keep track of. I do want to say the schedule makers really suck, man. Like the Bucks, we play the Bucks 4 times because they're in the Central Division. We play them 4 times this year. We don't play them at all in the first 2 months when they're struggling. Like really, we couldn't just get like an easy Bucks game where they're like half their starters are out. Like we couldn't just pick one of those up. No, we're gonna get them like full force in February and January when they're just gonna. Anyways, I mean, it'll be interesting to see that matchup. But just looking at our schedule, this coming week. So this week we got the Nuggets on Monday at home, and I know the Nuggets have been up and down. They're currently 11-11, but Jokic went off tonight and beat the Knicks basically by himself.
Yeah.
And we don't have much for Jokic except baby Jokic, which is Nikola Vucevic. And then we got the Cavs on Wednesday, and then and that's at Cleveland, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are currently 13-10. And then we've got Bulls Heat again, and this time it's in Miami on Saturday, and they've had some injury stuff. Obviously, Bam's out, Jimmy didn't even play, and they still beat the Pacers. But then look at the rest of the month is a stretch I think we can really take advantage of. We play the Pistons, the Raptors, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Raptors, the Pacers, Hawks twice in a row, and then Pacers to finish off January. Wait, nope, December. Yep. So that's our games for the rest of the year. I think the Bulls need to go on that stretch. They need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They need to go 7-2, I think, on that stretch, or 8-1.
Hey,
so,
just continue to do what they've been doing, and
one game at a time.
One game at a time. No, I'm right there with you though, because I was the guy that said. I mean, you said I think you said 3-2, or on that trip where they went 1-3, I think.
Yep, they needed to be 3-2,
and I was over here like, dude, they should only lose to the Heat, and they come out and like just absolutely. So they just have to just be ready, man. Like don't you can't have any like kind of bad losses, man. Win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah, and, no more losing their freaking Rockets. Come on now.
Yeah, that was tough.
That game was stupid.
But I'll be honest with you. The games that I am looking forward to, because I am trying to see something, is the Hawks, man.
They've been talking a lot of trash. I'm talking a lot of Andrew Kelly talking lots of trash.
Oh yeah. I'm so ready. I'm so ready to see this. I still think the heliocentric stuff is cool regular season. But playoff wise, I feel like that's something that's going to continue to hurt them. But
Speaking of putting the hurt on people, Gaines Report. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey,
always in here repping. I appreciate you. Appreciate you, man. Taco Tuesday.
Oh man, but yeah, man. Oh, something I wanted to bring, like the 3 games, man. With Zach, I think he had like 16-5 assist to turnover ratio. Tonight he has 6 assists to 0 turnovers. And like what I've been noticing with him, especially in pick and roll, like he's not only hitting the roll man anymore, like he's actually he's making the better reads. So
because the beginning of the season, Larry, you know this, the only person he would pass to in pick and roll is Vooch. 100% of the time he was passing the Vooch only. Yeah. I've seen him hitting the strong side, hitting the weak side corners now. I've seen him kicking back and he is growing before our very eyes.
Yeah,
in his passing repertoire. I've been impressed with that. Now, what's funny is that if you look up his stats, so this week he shot like 3 of 6 from 3 against the Knicks. He shot 2 of 7, I think, tonight. He was 0 for 5 in the first half from 3. He hasn't been shooting. I think he shot like mid 30%. Mid 30%. I'm trying to look up his stats for the year, but his stats have been a little bit less than last year, I think, in general. Let me see if I can get rid of these ads. He's at 48.8% field goal percentage. Last year he was at 50.7. He's at 38.8%.
Hold on one second. Yeah. That's how damn good Zach LaVine has been.
I know.
Talking about 48%.
I know.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
The man is shooting 55% from 2, 39% from 3, and we're like, he could do better.
Like what? That's crazy.
It's
But
wild,
no, man,
right?
I get what you're saying though. Like, yeah,
Because he's averaging 25.4 points per game, 3.8 assists, 5.3 rebounds, which is a little bit more rebounds, a little bit like an assist less and 2 points less than last year. But man,
I know. It's crazy.
I have no complaints about Zach. Like we talked about his defense. I think his defense has regressed a little bit. And I think a lot of it's being hidden by how freaking good Lonzo and Caruso and Javonte Green and Derek Jones have been.
Yeah.
But they're winning games. They're seventh in defense. They're doing it. And I think Zach still has really good moments on defense. But the man's an all-star. He's 26 years old. He's expanding his game. Now, have you noticed this year? He's doing a lot more of that little step back or fade away mid-range.
Yep.
He's nailing that shot. I don't know what the percentage is on it right now, but that shot is money all the time.
Right.
All the time. He's been working on that mid-range game a lot. You could tell it's showing out this year early on.
Yeah. Zach is I mean, my gosh, man. Like I just find it so funny that you're not criticizing him at all. You're just stating, about the little bit of the drop off, but the drop off to 48% from the floor is like that's how good he's been. Like
he's good.
Like
he's so good.
It's crazy, man. Like yes, he has those head scratching moments where you're like, Zach, shoot the first one, But I mean, the dude's a tough shot maker. Like a lot of the shots that he takes and makes, a lot of them, like the other night where he took the step back contested shot that was a 2, but he still made it. If he misses that, we're like, Zach, what are you doing? But
half the time he makes it. And
exactly.
If you shoot 50% on ridiculous shots, that's pretty key. It's like Steph Curry, right? Hey, Steph Curry, what are you taking shots from the logo for? oh, you're shooting 40% on those shots? Take on, baby. Take on.
Exactly.
If you can be efficient at high volume on those types of shots, even if it looks like a stupid shot, numbers don't lie. Like, and I agree with you. Like, there's sometimes where, like tonight in the first half, there was like 16 on the shot clock, and he took like this step back 3 from one of the wings, and I was like, I know you make that all the time, but is that really necessary right now? Like, you guys are closing into this lead.
Yeah.
But the man is a bucket. So I'm just nitpicking. If I have any criticisms, it's just nitpicking at this point.
Man,
we got King TMC hyped to rewatch this game. Me too. I'm watching it. I gotta go to bed soon. But
me too, man.
But in the morning, I'm gonna watch that again. I'm excited to see the second half. So
I don't know how much I can explain. Like, I don't know how much more I can explain how happy I am to be able to turn on a Bulls game and be happy to watch a Bulls game, and know that they're going to compete. They're going to compete, and for the most part, you expect to win. Like I think we went from like maybe we win to like we should beat this team. Like it's great. It's great.
It's true. It's true. And I don't necessarily expect to win every game, but I think they can. They can compete against anybody. They can win any game, and they should win most games. So that's a great place
I didn't
to
mean
be.
to say like every game, but I mean like in certain.
No,
certain
no,
games.
you're good. I got you. I got what you're saying. It's hard to complain. Merry Christmas to Bulls fans, and hopefully, man, please, injury gods, just nothing crazy this year. Just you've already extracted, your pound of flesh here with taking Patrick Williams out and having like half our team get COVID already. This COVID thing is ridiculous.
Mitch Robb is.
Actually,
oh my gosh, man, Mitch Robb.
Actually, I want to take you off of that subject because I know where that's leading. Alex Caruso, I'm a little bit worried. Hamstrings. So I partially tore my hamstring last February playing ball. I couldn't walk for 3 days. And then it took me about 6 weeks before I could play basketball again, but really like 8 or 9 weeks before I felt like good.
Mhm.
And even today, it's been 8 months since then. Every time I play basketball, it's like that hamstring feels tight. It doesn't feel the same. Now, I'm not worried about re-injuring necessarily, but hamstrings typically are easy to re-injure. And obviously, if Alex was playing, he didn't have as bad a hamstring sprain as I did. Maybe he just has that pain tolerance level. I literally couldn't walk. Like I could not walk for 3 days. I was like, like it's just like a wooden leg,
Yeah.
But he gave it a go. Gave us a couple threes in the beginning, his usual Alex stuff. But he looked a little hobbled.
Yeah.
I am, with the schedule coming up this week, that all 3 of those are tough games. What do you think? What's your concern level with Alex Caruso? And do you think he should be sitting the next couple of games?
First thing I would like to say is like I'm happy that we have Billy as head coach because I feel like it was Tibbs like, oh, you keep playing, like he would have like kept him out there. But thank God that Billy, noticed that because you could see it in the broadcast, like you could see he was wincing a little bit. So I'm glad he got out of there. But yeah, no, I think anybody that's ever had a hamstring injury, soft tissue, any type of soft tissue injury, you should be a little worried because you just never know. Like one day,
especially with ligaments, man.
Yeah,
they take time.
You just one day you wake up, you feel, oh man, I'm good, and you try to do something and there it is again. It feels like there's like a tennis ball in the back of your leg or something like that. Like you just, you hope that he gets the good treatment. And is able to work his way back. But, that's a tough, if he's got to be out for a while, it's tough. That's what I'm worried about.
Put him on that Braun 2-week trip to Miami plan. That works for him every year. I don't know what drugs they're injecting him with, what performance enhancing drugs they're doing, but it's working for LeBron. Let's see. Shoot. I had something. I had one more thing, but it's gone. It's gone from my mind. But Caruso's been a revelation.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah, Caruso's been great, man. Been great. Been great. I even thought about buying a headband, man. I've never, even when I play ball, I never wanted to wear a headband. Never. I hate headbands. But like, I want to be able to do the whole wipe the headband.
I know. It's amazing. Well, listen, once again, I thought we would talk for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we have overshot our estimation. I don't know why. We should just treat this like the dunker spot and you just go for 2.5 hours every week. Everyone that's listening and their ears are bleeding already, like, please stop. But with just once a week, I feel like once a week is so little I can talk about ball with you. And I could do it for a lot longer. And we didn't have any film tonight. And if we had any film, we'd be here for another 2. But we'll try and get some film for you guys next week. But I've just been a lot of fun. I need to get myself a jersey for Christmas. I'm hoping the wife pulls through on that. We'll see. But I think I'm getting a Zach LaVine jersey first off. But I may invest in the headband or the Caruso jersey at some point. I may get a DeMar jersy. Man, I love this team. Man. DeMar deserves the jersey purchase for sure. I just don't have the funds, but I would love to get a DeMar jersey too. Whew. Anything you want to touch on before we sign off for the evening?
I mean, I think we've touched on everything. If you guys have time, all the listeners and people that are viewing us right now, if you have time, take some time to either go on YouTube or search all the bad takes about this team, all the Nick Friedel takes, Tim Bontemps, everyone, and just sit back, have a glass of wine or beer or water, whatever you drink with a snack, and just listen to it. And then just take a look at maybe your laptop or your iPad and see the record and see where we rank half court defensively and just have a chuckle or two, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to once I get off here, I'm going to go into the kitchen, grab something to eat and a drink and watch that. and just especially Nick Friedel. Oh, by the way, Nick Friedel came on ESPN 1000 like a couple of weeks ago, and they asked him. They said, "Do you think that this Bulls team, as well as their plan, do you think they're contenders in the East? Not title contenders, but contenders to win a couple series, or I think Waddle had said one series." And he did that whole laugh that he likes to do, that whole like crazy laugh. It's like, no, they're not. They're good, but they're not that good, And I'm like,
just can't. Just doubling down over and over again.
Why can't you guys get anybody better? Just get Nick doesn't like the Bulls. Get somebody that actually is pretty even and talk to you about basketball. But I just had to say that. John Hollinger, you're definitely right. But you know what? John Hollinger actually has tweeted and said that, I was told, I was wrong. So I respect John, so he's not doubling down.
Yeah.
Like
I'm just saying, after 24 games, almost a fourth of the season, the Bulls have the highest point differential in the East. And they have the number 2 record. They're half a game behind the Brooklyn Nets. So yeah. Hollinger, he's turned it around. Nate Duncan turned it around. Daniel LaRue turned it around. They all kind of Seth Partnow did.
Yep.
Even Tim Bontemps ate crow, and he's like, "Bulls are back, baby!" Like everyone's on it. Nick Friedel is the final holdout on Ignorance Island, and he's gonna die on that hill, baby. That's okay. That's all right. That's okay. It's a worthy cause, I guess.
He's gonna bring up real plus minus and talk to you why. That's what he's gonna do. That's what he always does.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for the comments this evening. It's so nice to be back. I know we're here every week. I don't know why I'm back, but I feel like every Saturday I'm like, yes, we're back. We get to talk about the Bulls again. Hey, Vince, I'll give credit to Vince. Vince Goodwill said, "Hey, this Bulls team is going to be good." He and Chris Herring were one of the few, besides us, of course, that thought your beloved Chicago Bulls were going to be a force in the East. So glad it's happened so far.
Yeah.
A lot of season to go. And you go on a 4-game losing streak and you're in 10th or 11th in the East. So, the Bulls got to keep bringing it. Hope for good health. But thank you guys for the comments. Thanks you guys for hanging out with us. And I did want to mention, if you guys did not get a chance to listen to last week's episode with Alana Tahauer, she was incredible. She also gave a lot of good insight on the Miami Heat, which is one of those teams that Larry and I think have both talked about. Being a playoff team, that would be a real tough challenge for us. So definitely check out that episode if you haven't on YouTube. There was a little problem with it uploading to podcast form, but it is up. So please go check that out as well and give her a follow. She's awesome. She does. She's an associate producer for NBC Sports Chicago, and just a really cool person. So it was great having her on, and we'll try and continue to get more cool guests for you guys in the future. But you guys enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Listen to Larro Golden. The G stands for gets.
Oh, man.
Long time.
I know, right? Man, couldn't win with that guy. But
it's Alana Tahauer. And if you just look us up on YouTube or on the look under Barroom Network on any podcast platform, you'll find the episode uploaded recently. It's called "The Heat Is On." That's the episode title. So go check that out, guys. Otherwise, see you guys next week. Go Bulls. We got a fun schedule. Fun never ends, man.
Nope.
More stuff today. More stuff tomorrow. All right. See you guys. Peace.
Peace.